What is going on, my friends? Happy Monday. It's February 8th. I'm Lauren Sisler with AL.com. We got another SEC Insider coming your way. And joining me today to chat, our good friend and columnist at AL.com, Joseph Goodman. What is up, Joseph? Long time no see, no talk. And I'm not happy
Yeah,
about it. I'm not happy about it at all, my friend.
pandemic style.
Yeah, what is up? Hey, so here's the deal, and I want to give you a chance to break down your most recent column that you titled "Auburn's New Football Coach is Falling Behind Already." So you kind of break things down in this column,
Dong dong
I guess,
dong.
with sound effects and all, right? As you're writing it, sound effects. So first of all, in this column, you obviously kind of get into sort of the approach for Auburn and, what are some of the biggest challenges that the new head football coach, Coach Harsin, faces, obviously being here in the state of Alabama, in the SEC, in the SEC West. He's coming over from Boise State. There's all sorts of things, obviously the timing of it, bringing in recruits. There's a pandemic. There's all sorts of challenges, all sorts of things happening. But I just want to first start with you kind of shooting us straight with the facts, your thought process, when you said, all right, I want to get real with people about why this job for Coach Harsin ain't gonna be easy.
Yeah, no way. And that was the big point of the column. Just reminding people that, it's time for a reality check, okay? You hire this guy during a pandemic. He doesn't know really the territory. He's just getting started. He has all these things against him. And I've heard a lot of this from Auburn people before I wrote the column, okay? There is a concern at Auburn that they're going to be behind a little bit. And I was just shooting people straight. That's all it was. No, there was no blame against the coach, against Harsin. I mean, it just is what it is, and it's time to kind of take I just got a phone call. Sorry, it's time to take account just where Auburn is right now, going into the season in the spring.
Yeah, so obviously Auburn jumping up the rankings, number 27 now, according to 24/7 Sports. Just sort of some highlights. Auburn signed 6 players on Wednesday to go along with 11 that Malzahn had signed in December. And, I guess, again, we're in the SEC West, and you kind of noted in this that there is no pass in the SEC West and that you're going up against all these schools in the SEC West, including the one that's across the street, if you will, in Alabama, the Crimson Tide, who have the number 1 class. So kind of break down for me, what are some significant key areas that make this Auburn job maybe so challenging? And to your point, why should it not be so challenging, but it has become a challenge for, Gus Malzahn and obviously now Coach Harsin?
Okay, to begin with, it's the SEC West, and that's the big thing right now. There are so many great coaches in the SEC West, and Bryan is coming in at a difficult time during a pandemic. He can't go meet people the way he wants to. I mean, these are all things that he has said during first news conferences. He's already called it a challenge. Trying to deal with becoming a new coach at Auburn during this pandemic. So, these aren't revelatory things, per se. It's just like I said, it just is what it is for Auburn right now. I've heard these things from people at Auburn that they're concerned. Just the way that the circumstances are for Bryan coming in as a new coach. And, it's one thing to fall behind Alabama with Saban and LSU maybe, but you can't start falling behind Ole Miss if you're Auburn. I mean, that's just a place that you can't be, because at the end of the day, Auburn has the potential to be perennially, like Harsin says, one of the top teams in the country. When we were talking about this off air beforehand, there's no reason that Auburn shouldn't be Clemson, where Clemson is right now. Like, they have potential. They have the resources. This new $91 million football facility that's coming in is going to be incredible. All these things are great. But right now, at this moment in time, this is extremely difficult for Bryan. And people need to realize that, going into this spring.
Yeah, and just to point out, I see some commenters coming in, and to your point, and you said this sort of off the top of the show, like, this is not to fault Bryan Harsin. he comes in with a very, very tough job. And any coach, no matter who it is, has a tough job when they come in at this, the timing of it obviously is not ideal. Things are extremely different now. You got early signing day in December, and then of course National Signing Day being February 1st. But add to that the pandemic, the inability, as you mentioned, to go into people's living rooms to really sell
Right.
your program.
And these are all things that he has said. Okay, these are
Yeah.
all things that he has pointed out in his news conferences.
Yeah,
Like,
absolutely. And I will tell you, and I've brought this up on our broadcast before. I've traveled around, done a lot of games for ESPN, and one specifically as we were kind of getting into December because of the season being extended. Kirby Smart had an in-depth conversation with him specifically about early signing day and the challenges that it poses during the pandemic, and then also the differences, and there's some pros and cons. And, one of the things he says, you're not parading around in someone's living room. You're not throwing the kitchen sink at them. You're literally having conversations like we are now on a Zoom call, having those non face-to-face interactions. You can't sell people on the campus and the facilities and everything that you have coming in. On the flip side, though, your competitor also can't do that either. So, there's that aspect of it.
Here's the problem, though. Okay, here's the problem specifically that Bryan faces. All right, and this is not his fault. He hasn't been there that long. But in times of chaos, okay, and this is a general blanket statement, you're going to go with what is in order and under control at that moment. So if you're a recruit, okay, are you going to go with a coach who's already established that you already know, just through Zoom, or are you going to go with some new guy who you haven't even heard of? All right, and that's the specific challenge that he faces right now. And to ignore that fact is just not doing him a service. Okay, people need to be prepared for them that there might be some struggles here before they get it turned around. All right. I think that's the big thing that people need to understand.
Yeah. So, just kind of laying it out there and keeping those expectations at bay. So I do want to ask you, based on some of the recruits that came in, and we talked about it before the broadcast, you talk about the quarterback specifically. Coach Harsin is known to develop quarterbacks. And I know there has been some up and down, a little bit of a roller coaster with Bo Nix, and kind of that being a big question. I know that Harsin did sign a 2022 quarterback, but just your overall thoughts, in some ways, yes, while I know that this is going to be a huge challenge for him, if there's some key pieces that you're looking at that you say, okay, this may not be a bad thing. You mentioned specifically Bo Nix. Maybe he's got a shot here to really develop and grow, and maybe he has that opportunity. You said you weren't giving up on him yet. Is that correct?
No way. I'm not giving up on Bo Nix. I think he's a great talent. I think he should have a really good year under this new coach. I think Harrison has obviously developed a lot of great quarterbacks at Boise State. He's been able to recruit quarterbacks. They're bringing in a quarterback that Gus recruited. As I lose an ear thing here, these things don't stay in your ears. It's crazy. I got
to have the AirPods, right?
So Demetrius Davis from Houston is a really good quarterback, and Gus signed that guy. And he's going to come in, and he's going to push Nix. And competition is a great thing, Nix kind of came into Auburn, and he had the job handed to him. And sometimes that's not the best situation to be in for a young quarterback. You need to have somebody pushing you. So I think Demetrius Davis will come in, and he'll definitely, push Bo.
Yeah, I think competition is key. And you talk about just the challenges that Harsin does face. So, it's not only recruiting new guys, but it's keeping guys that, came in early signing, the early signing period. We mentioned 11 were signed by Gus Malzahn in December. I'd have to go back and look how many of those guys perhaps stayed, flipped, transfer portal, all those things. I think that's probably another big thing that, has certainly played into this. And people have to remember too, like this pandemic has opened up this big wormhole of a transfer portal that is larger than life right now, because, oh, by the way, you can pretty much go anywhere, anytime you want. And it doesn't matter if it's an SEC school right down the road from you because of that freebie year. So that adds another wrinkle and another layer. So, I think that's one thing to your point, the expectations, first of all, I met Coach Harsin. I worked with him 3 times last year. I covered 3 Boise State games. I think the guy's great. I'm excited with the culture that he brings in. I'm excited at what the potential is. But like any coach, no matter where you go, even if you are the #1 coach in the country and you are bringing in big things. I mean, I know, right up the road, you got Nick Saban, but you're not going to just go win a championship in the first year. But I do think that if you have a guy that can come in and implement the right culture, and I know he's a culture guy, bring in the right guys and obviously find the right fit for, his system. I'm with you. And I am anxious to see how things go with Bo Nix. I don't think he's going to win the job outright. I think it's going to be a competition. I think there's going to be a lot of push, but I'd like to see that not only at that position, but, other key positions as well. To see how things shape up. And, winter workouts just started. Spring ball will be here before we know it. And so I think we'll start to see more. But keep in mind, Joe, I mean, we haven't been able we're already kind of limited on what we get to see as media members anyways. I'm anxious and excited to see what happens and unfolds in spring. It'll be interesting to see how much of that is visible to us as media members, because once again, keep in mind, even last year during, I guess spring ball and obviously fall ball, like we couldn't get into practice. They just send us a feed. So, they can kind of comb through everything and we get to see whatever they want us to see. So I think that's another interesting aspect of it too.
Cover's not bare for Auburn. I mean, that's the good news. That Bryan has to appreciate going into the spring. He's got a veteran quarterback. He needs to refine his confidence, but I think Bo Nix can do that. Tank Bigsby can be the best running back in the SEC. I think we all know that. Like I mentioned in the column, Auburn should be able to file out of bed and have a great defense every year. That just kind of goes with the territory of where they are. They're not going to be terrible next year, okay? At least they shouldn't be. If there's a big fall off, then I'm really going to start to be concerned. But the biggest thing is for Bryan right now to just establish himself recruiting. And he's already admitted that it's a challenge, and that's definitely what the column spoke to.
Yeah, absolutely. So it'll be interesting to see kind of how things unfold. Obviously, this year, I kind of hate to say it's an anomaly, but I think in a lot of ways that it's almost like the perfect storm for everything going against you that could possibly go against you in the timing, the pandemic, obviously, just the key pieces that, are not there and being in that position. But will definitely be interesting. Joe, we appreciate you coming on, sharing your thoughts with us. We'll continue to keep an eye out, and obviously as things unfold and we get into spring ball, definitely looking forward to that to see how things shape up. But again, thank you. It was great to see you and great to chat with you as always. And have a wonderful rest of your week.
All right, guys. See ya.